Welcome to the Paranormal StateOut radio TV show with Larry Lawson. As a former career law enforcement officer and law enforcement educator, Larry focuses on the use of tried and true law enforcement investigative techniques in conducting paranormal investigations. Despite his experience and training, Larry also keeps an open mind to discussions on topics that deal with evidence that are not quite as physical in nature. Paranormal StateOut guests are professionals in the field of the paranormal and parapsychology, conducting the investigations and research needed to further the cause of paranormal study. Larry advocates an agenda of standardization of structure and training in the field of paranormal investigation and research for the purpose of one day being able to produce the evidence needed to convince a jury of the existence of the paranormal. Whether it is ghosts, UFOs, unsolved mysteries, hauntings or cryptids, no topic is beyond the investigative reach of Larry Lawson and the Paranormal StateOut radio TV show team. Now, here is the host of the Paranormal StateOut radio TV show, Larry Lawson.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Paranormal StateOut. I am your host, Larry Lawson, coming to you from the Southern Command Post of the X-Zone Broadcast Radio and TV Network in beautiful Vero Beach, Florida. Glad to have everybody back. Especially, I want to say hello to all of our new listeners and friends on the CanCom broadcast network. Sure happy to have you here, and we're live, and that's another exciting thing about the show now. We are live, so if you got comments, thoughts, please feel free to type in and tell us about it. Got a great show for you tonight. I'm very, very excited about it. I mean, my guest tonight, you've seen him originally on the TV show Haunted Collector as the tech specialist, and later on the different TV shows, including more recently, Paranormal Channel, travel channels, Paranormal Caught on Camera. You've also seen him on Doomsday Caught on Camera, as well as dozens of different shows. He's also an author. Grains of Sand, Tales of a Paranormal Life. He's also working on a really, really terrific project right now called History of the Paranormal Mobile Exhibit, where he's taken around the country to teach folks about the experiences and the rich tapestry of the supernatural lore throughout history, offering visitors a glimpse into the enigmatic world of ghosts, cryptids, and otherworldly phenomena. So this is an opportunity to see during these events the history of the paranormal. His name, you've heard of him, you've seen him. His name is Brian Cano, and I want to welcome Brian to the show tonight. Brian, good to see you. Good to have you back on Paranormal StateOut.
Hey, Larry, it's good to be back.
Yeah, it's tough to get all of your resume in there. You've done so much, and you've done really so much to help the paranormal community. With how you present yourself in the different events that you've done, and just the way you share your experiences. And at the off chance that perhaps there's somebody out there that hasn't gotten to know you yet, take a couple minutes to kind of tell us about how you got to where you are today.
Sheer dumb luck, Larry. I could not have plotted my course to this point. And for those who are versed in parapsychology and know about the block universe theory, they say that the universe has specific waypoints, actual coordinates in time, that things that are bound to happen. It's not fate per se, but it's a more scientific rendering of this, that yeah, you can make little small decisions, but certain guideposts are going to happen regardless, as everything moves through space and time. And I gotta say, if anything makes me believe in such a concept, it's the fact that I'm here now doing this. I started kind of officially in the paranormal back in 2002 on a cable access show here in Staten Island, New York, called Scared on Staten Island. And today, I mean, I'm planning my Australian tour for later this year. I'm going to be going to France in a couple of weeks. I'm traveling the globe talking to people about this topic. I don't know why people want to hear what I've got to say, but I'm thankful that they do. I started out as a skeptic. I'm a skeptical believer today. There's been a lot of change. Even the last time I was with you down in
Mhm.
Florida, I think I was a very different investigator. Um, yeah, it's about change, it's about growth, but I think
Evolving.
what the paranormal field needs is that ability to change. And I think just asking questions is half that battle.
Well, and that's something you and I have talked about in the past. And tonight, kind of our topic, if you will, is raising the bar in the paranormal community. Now, I've been in this business since I actually started investigating around 2008, so a little bit after you. But I've changed myself. I've evolved. I mean, I spent 40 years as a cop, and therefore I was very cynical and upfront. And of course, my mind is open as we evolve. But one thing I've noticed, Brian, is that not a lot has changed in our community. Not a lot has evolved to help us find the answers. So when you talk about raising the bar in the paranormal community, what do you mean?
Well, when it comes to the bar, the proverbial bar, a lot of people are limboing under it because it's very low. It all depends on what your goal is. What are you here to do? And a lot of people on social media call it the paranormal field, but it is not really a field. Very few of us are in the field. I feel like I'm field adjacent. Those people actually doing research, the Rhine
Mhm.
Research Center, the SPR. There's organizations that dedicate time and energy into writing scientific papers, doing things with the scientific method to try to better understand what we're doing. They look askance at the ghost hunting community and they're like, yeah, we're you guys are wasting your time. That's silly." But at the same time, they're doing quantitative research. They're in the labs, they're writing papers. What are they experiencing? What are they doing? Well, the people in the field who they consider not to be serious are actually experiencing these things. And however they go about it, that's qualitative research. Now, we need both halves. We need both sides. I feel the academics can loosen up a little bit and come into the middle. There's things that can be learned from the enthusiastic black shirt wearing teams. And those teams would do well to come into the middle, learn from the academics, learn to be a little more serious about things, and do things in a way where all this data we're collecting can move the pieces further down the board. And as far as raising that bar, the reason things haven't changed is, yeah, people don't know their goals. They don't know why they're doing this. And
For the
I
purpose.
put that down into three categories. Now, the paranormal is not a field, it's a community. There's a lot of people in it. Now, the biggest population of that is the tourist. Now, that's not a slight, that's not a slam. When you say tourist, people are like, "Oh, that's, kind of a negative connotation," but we need tourists. We need people who are just curious, who are interested. Yeah, they're not gonna write a book, they're not gonna change theory, but they're having experiences, and these are people who go on haunted walks, haunted tours, like to just experience it, but then go home. That's it. That's all there's going to be. And for us, we who run events, yeah, we need those people to support the places that we're going, whether it be through a historic trust or a board or what have you. Just because, again, this is a capitalist nation, we need the money to keep doing what we're doing.
Mhm.
But you have the investigators, those aforementioned black shirts I talk about. And these are people who spend their time, their effort, their money, they form teams, and usually on Fridays and Saturdays, they go wherever they need to go. They pile in the car, they drive to places near and far, and they set up their equipment and they investigate.
Mhm.
But it kind of dies there. What do they do with that data? All right, they throw it on their social media. They say, "Hey, we're serious. We're here to help you." And I'm like, well, like you said, Larry, nothing changes. A lot of it is monkey see, monkey do. And while there are fewer TV shows on there for them to emulate, they're still kind of doing things the same way. There's been no change. But that's where the smallest category comes in, the researcher. This could be someone who was an investigator, is an investigator, may have been a tourist, who is looking to affect change, to alter theory, to try to take all that data and do something with it. Let's make some observations. Does it play out? One of the biggest things that I think is a perfect example of this, and this is going to piss off a lot of people. I don't care. is the Estes method.
Mhm.
I can't stand it. I rail against it. But again, I'll have the conversation and people will, the minute I say, oh, I don't like it, the hands crossed, the arms folded, like, we get good evidence with it. And I said, okay, let's delve into the situation, the method, and why you feel this is happening. And this is not a matter of me being right and you being wrong. I think it's a misinterpretation of what's actually happening. And I'll kind of leave it there. If we want to swing back around, I don't want to dedicate the whole
Oh, no,
episode.
actually, I actually, this is exactly where I wanted to go. I've used the Estes method myself, and I'll be honest with you, I've had some great luck with it. But I think you'll also agree that none of us really know the total answers.
All
But
right,
this is
this is perfect then. This is what I hear all the time. Like, oh, I get great results with it.
Mhm.
Using what metric? Basing on what comparison? Now, remember, we're human beings. This thing up here is constantly trying to make order out of chaos. So you give me 5 words, I'll make those words make sense to where we are, what I know about the place, because again, the cognitive dissonance hates those blanks. So if you're in a haunted prison, all the words you're going to hear are going to feed into that narrative. And of course, make something that sounds like, oh, this makes sense. But here's the flaws immediately upon the get go. What is commonly called the Estes method is a bit of a bastardization of the Gansfeld. Now, the headphones, the blindfolds, okay, yeah, it looks very familiar. There's some de facto um, confidence in it. But once you put on a blindfold, we don't all become Marvel's Daredevil. We don't get superhuman hearing. We can't all of a sudden hear ghosts because our eye, there's something on our eyes. That's a misnomer. That's a fallacy. There's studies to back that up. I could give anyone who argues with me the link. But that being said, your focus is increased. Okay, yes, you're when you're not relying on your eyes, maybe you're listening a little carefully. But if you're listening to a spirit box, an SP7 or whatever particular brand you have, why would you whittle down that concentration to just one person? And how did they become the speaker box for the spirit world all of a sudden? I would rather have 5 people in a room listen to that spirit box and we all try to figure it out rather than depend on the storytelling ability of one person.
And that point's well taken. And I think this is where kind of I'm getting at also with the people and their training. We have no structure in the community, to use that term. Structure as far as every different team does it a little bit differently.
Hmm.
And if I like to use the analogy, they will investigate a homicide up in New York the same way we will do down here in Vero Beach, Florida. Structurally, say, no, there's some differences with law, there's some differences with procedure, but essentially it's all the same. And therefore, the evidence they would find in New York would be just as admissible here. Why can't we get to the point, and we're going to take our break here in a second, but why can't we get to the point where we are all doing something so substantially similar that if you're getting evidence in Staten Island, New York, and I'm getting evidence here, that we can compare it and it would be legitimate because it's all been collected the same way. Does that make sense?
It does, and actually, because Larry, you were in law enforcement, I wore my police shirt for you.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're familiar with the CSI effect. When the
I
TV
have.
shows Crime Scene Investigation came out, everybody thinks, "Oh, this is easy," and
Oh,
yet
please. I know.
courts are like, "Yeah, it doesn't work that way."
But we got to take our break right now.
Right.
We're flying through this already. So let's take our first break, folks. Stay with us. Brian and I have got a lot to talk about. We want you to be part of it. So stay tuned. We'll be back after these messages. And welcome back, folks, to our show. I got Brian Cano with me tonight. Brian, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry, had a little glitch on my screen there. So I agree with what you said. I mean, do you know how many times I've worked cases and a victim has said, "Well, you've got the fingerprint. Can't you tell me who it is?" If I had a nickel for every time something like that happened, I would have retired many years ago. But so I understand what you mean by the CSI effect. But
Well,
go
that's
ahead with
I
your
mean,
thought. Go.
the reason I bring that up is because, again, it's a TV show method perpetuated by the masses because they see it on TV. They're like, "Oh, this is how it's done." And yet those who are really in the work, for in your case, law enforcement, you're like, "Yeah, it doesn't work that way. Oh, this TV show is really making our job harder because X, Y, and Z." And when it
Mhm.
comes to the aforementioned method, I always tell people, I said, well, if you feel you're getting genuine, verifiable results, my counter argument is that it has nothing to do with the spirit box, the blindfold, or the headphones. It has to do with your psi, your employment of psi, bringing in information that is relevant. I still feel like letting the other people in the room hear the recording, hear the spirit box as it's going is useful. Perfect example. Dustin Perry and I were on a case, and we do something that predates the Estes method. It's called the DOS experiment, dual output spirit box, DOS, two in Spanish. So it works for many different cultures. Now, you have one spirit box and you have two headphones on a splitter. So we're both listening to the same device. Now, again, okay, sure, it would be great to have everybody in the room listening, but here are two people focusing. Now, we're not blindfolded. We're actually writing everything down that we're hearing that we feel is relevant. Writing, 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 writing. You're here. Sure, you're going to hear songs, you're going to hear radio broadcasts, but other things that come through, yeah, you write it down. I'm writing, Dustin is writing. Someone and because, again, because we're listening to the spirit box, all we hear is the meanwhile, someone else is asking questions, very much like the other method. They will
Mhm.
ask the question, and hopefully it will line up to what we're writing down. Now, when a new question is asked, someone will shine a flashlight at our pages so we know, oh, a new question has been asked. Draw a line. Perhaps everything after that line will pertain to that next question, whatever it may be. We don't know what it is, so we are not trying to weave a story. Sure, we know where we are, and those things may happen naturally. But again, now there's two people to to build off of each other. After 10 questions, we shut everything down and we hear the questions. Someone will say, all right, the first question, who's the president of the United States? I'll read out what I got. Dustin read out what he got. We'll see what matches, if anything, because again, we're listening to the same broadcast. And B, is it relevant? Now, here's a perfect example that I feel kind of takes the S's method and throws it out the window. Dustin went first. The question was, I forget what it was, but he heard cat, radio, dog, I'm dead. Ooh, oh, I'm dead. Okay, that's what we're here for. Oh, maybe this is a spirit that's in need of help. Okay, it's time for me to read what I got. Okay, cat, dog, radio, in debt. Now, we're listening to a radio broadcast. Most likely there was a commercial on there that said, are you $30,000 in debt or more? Call our professionals, or we're waiting to call you. Call now. Dustin was like, oh, you know what? You're probably right. I said, well, logically, in debt and I'm dead are phonetically very similar
Mhm.
to the novice black shirt investigator who really wants it to be spirit communication. They'll hear I'm dead. Is it really that? This demonstrates that even just the perspective of one more person changes that narrative. So the first person could say, I'm getting good evidence, but again, based on what metric? And
So,
we have to look at everything that way. Just because we want it to be so doesn't make it so.
but once again, you're absolutely putting an exclamation point on my point. Why can't we as a community, we'll use that term, come together to find out best practices, come up with a structure, a foundation of how to investigate? That doesn't mean you've got to ask the questions the same way. It doesn't It doesn't mean you can't change a few things, but a basic structure. I actually really like this method, and I'm going to look to employ that myself. But why can't we all get together and share that type of information, come up with a structure so that when you're conducting an investigation in Spokane, Washington, and we're doing it down here, now how we collect this evidence is going to be similar. Therefore, it's legitimate when we use it interstate, if that makes sense. Why can't we get to that point? Why can't we share information with each other and always fight? Well, you don't like the SS method, therefore I'm going to shut you down right now. That's not going to work any longer in this community. I don't think.
I think
What are
it's
your thoughts?
I think it's human nature. Why can't the states agree on how to balance a budget? Why can't anybody agree north or south of the Mason-Dixon line? Why can't we agree from Puerto Rico to Hawaii on what are best practices? Now, there are certain ways
Go
to
ahead.
do things when it's repeatable and when it is um, something that, yeah, we've figured it out. But as far as this, the paranormal is so amorphous, and I'm down with the concept that there are many right ways to do something. I
Agreed.
do believe there are wrong ways, and I see people doing a lot of the wrong things, which is what I like to try to say, "Hey, don't do that." But there are
Mhm.
many right ways to do it, and something that works in one area might not work in another, and I think it comes down to belief. And
Okay.
I've been getting a lot into consciousness and how it relates to our very existence. And you look at things like the double slit experiment, how observation of something changes the way in which it behaves. Could this be true for our paranormal experiences? Could it be that the way we ask, what we believe, how we employ certain, let's call them superstitions for lack of a better word, you'll have different cultures that believe different things and they come to the question with a different background. The phenomenology of everything differs, and I can't say any of them are wrong. That being
Mhm.
said, I would love to learn about their particular method to find out, well, why does this work? Or what can be improved? How can I take some of this and make my methods better? But then sometimes you
Mhm.
come up to that and you're like, yeah, that doesn't work at all. And whether they believe in it or not, perhaps it's working, but something different is happening behind the scenes, very much in a psychosomatic way. And to answer your question, why can't everyone just get on the same page? I don't think we ever will. But that being said, at least if they can agree that there is a certain set of immutable laws, which again, we're nowhere
Okay.
near penning that. But at
Okay.
least in the data collection, it depends on who you are. Tourist,
Well,
investigator, researcher. Researcher
well,
wants those specific things, but a tourist is like, yeah, I don't care. I had fun. Woo.
and and true, and we need to. I call it the thrill seekers or tourists.
Yep.
I get that we need it, but in law enforcement, to use that term, we have a set of standards that does not. It's not written. I won't say in stone, but it's flexible, just as you're describing. How do we get to a point where if we're going to be successful in the community to find the answers, and I find it interesting your angle on the consciousness there. But if we're going to get to a point where we're going to be able to collect evidence and have legitimate evidence being shared through different organizations, don't we have to have some level of a standard and or an agreement on a certain way to do things?
I do. I do think there should be a standards. I've been trying to push standards since I was wearing a black shirt.
Okay,
And
and that's
I
where I'm coming
found
from.
over the 24 years I've been doing this, my opinions about certain things have changed, and therefore so has my opinions on certain rules. So if opinions on rules can change, how does the rule stay relevant? And again, just to take it back to law enforcement, yeah, I could do something here in New York, but then I cross to Jersey and it's illegal. Not even laws can be agreed uh, across geographies, but something like this is bigger than just
Well,
the opinions of man. This is talking about the species. This is talking about humanity, and it's all kind of a jumbled soup of all of us. And I think when it comes to data collection, This is the main thing that I think we're all getting it wrong. Where's the data going? Yeah, you go on a hunt over the weekend. Wow, we got 80 EVPs. Great, let's see them. Let's hear them. Put them somewhere. Over the years, there have been people who've tried to have databases for us to share that, but web
Mhm.
spaces, data is expensive. You gotta buy and you gotta subscribe to a package, and the average person doesn't have that long haul. Some well-meaning people have tried, and it just all falls apart.
I've tried myself, actually. So how do we what do we do to change that? Is
We get Musk or Bezos to care about the paranormal and get some cash. That's what we
okay.
do.
How do you how do you think that we will ever or will we ever be able to work in concert with the scientific community in order to merge our two sides, collect the evidence, and come up with answers? How do you see us doing that?
It almost has to be done one at a time. The individual has to decide, I wanna know more. I wanna do it better. And again, I find myself in that space. I've taken courses at the Rhine Research Center. I've had professors such as Lloyd Auerbach who
Mhm.
have been in this a long time and is a name that, yes, if he says something, okay, there's weight behind it. There is process behind it. I found myself in the middle of those two worlds. I've been on TV. I'm s- potentially part of the problem that I preach against. And I'm trying to use my platform to bring those two ends into the middle, as I said. And things like my history of the paranormal mobile exhibits, that's an effort to say, all right, guys, this all existed before Jason, Grant, and Zach. They knew, and there are names that, okay, yeah, you might know the name Ed and Lorraine Warren, but if there wasn't a movie about it, would you? Come here, learn the names, learn the places, learn some of the concepts. And if I throw a lot of information at people, but if they leave knowing just one more name, like Harry Price, Manuel Swedenborg, the Fox sisters, they go, they tell their group, they tell their friends, we all rise together. All the boats, high tide lifts all boats.
Agreed. So, people like yourself, the folks at the Rhine Center, what is preventing us, we shall say, from coming together and creating that, for lack of a better term, a board, a group of respected individuals whose work has been examined and is respected throughout the community, coming together and saying, let's all try together and work under not necessarily this umbrella, but this set of guidelines.
It's perspective.
What's preventing it? Okay.
It's perspective and it's opinion because again, while you and I share many opinions and we're like, yeah, hey, well, this seems obvious. Why don't we do this? There's people who look at us and go, yeah, they're wrong. No, I'm not following your rules because I do it better, or I know what I'm
Yep.
doing, or I think you're wrong. I remember, I think it was 2007, 2008. I was at a convention, UnivCon, out in State College, Pennsylvania. This was the home base of the TV show Paranormal State. All of them went
Oh,
to
yeah.
school here, and they would put on these conventions. And again, well-meaning to try to educate people. And I was with my group at the time, our black shirts.
Okay.
And I remember some of the
Well,
guests being Lloyd Auerbach, Lorraine Warren. There was a lot of people, and I still had to get to know all these people. I
well,
didn't necessarily
I hate
know.
Brian, I hate to do this to you, but we're coming up on our break. So I want to
Okay.
talk about this event you were at, and I want you to expand on that right after this break. Folks, stay with us. Brian's got some great stuff to share with us. We'll be right back after these messages.
Oh, apparently I'm in charge of the show now. Welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout with Brian J. Cano. Larry Lawson will be with us soon, and we'll be talking about this time I went to UNIFCON many years ago. And when he shows back up, I'll let him hop in. But for now, I control the horizontal and the vertical. So stick with me. It was an attempt. I remember being in their auditorium, and it was very much like the Senate chambers in Star Wars. These layered um, rows, and people from all different groups came, and there was an attempt to form a paranormal congress. I was tickled by the idea that there would be some governing body, some system of checks and balances, someone to report to and someone to hold a measuring stick up to standards to say, all right, guys, if you want to be part of this, you have to meet these standards so that, again, we can all communicate, share data, and move the dial, just so that we could get some answers. And I remember there was respect, but there was arguing. It felt very much like a any kind of Senate or courtroom scene from any movie you might have seen. And I remember sitting there looking around at the people. It was me and another member of my team. We were just like, yeah, I like this, but it's not going to work. Look at them. They're arguing about this. And look at them. Who's plotting? And again, once you put a political model on anything, there's going to be sides. And there's going to be people who, again, well meaning, they believe their side is right. And they're going to try to argue for their agenda. And it fell apart. It never really got off the ground. There was a lot of, again, we left everyone very well meaning. There was going to be an election of to see who would be in charge, president, vice president, treasurer, secretary. And there was going to be the representatives from each state, from each um, group, organization. And again, I still feel something like that would be nice to hold us accountable, a place for us where, yeah, you don't know what to do. All right, there's a resource for you to say, "Hey, I'm new. How do I start? What are the rules?" And rules are important. I mean, whether you have you're a religious person, whether you uh, are into politics, whether you are into gaming, whatever you, there are rules. And I feel like you never hear the phrase "there are no experts" more than from people who have just been doing this for a week, a month, just got started. Because while I think expertise in the paranormal cannot be gained, because again, yeah, we don't know exactly what the answers are, experience matters. There's wisdom. I would trust someone who is doing this for 5 years over someone doing this 1 month. Then you have people, again, the aforementioned Lloyd Arbach, one of my mentors, John Zathis. I would trust all of them before someone who angrily shakes their fist and says, "I've been doing this for 5 years and there are no experts." But wisdom matters. And the more you have under your belts, the more you can give back to people and say, yeah, you know what? I've been in this situation many times, and here's what I've learned. And hopefully, all those years as they continue to accrue, yeah, you could still be old and still be wrong, but you know, something to be said for experience and wisdom. So I always rail against that. I say, yeah, okay, yeah, there are no experts, but I think wisdom matters. And the people who have been doing it who are wiser than I or we, they might be the ones to say, all right, here are some guidelines. People don't like rules, but guidelines are important. What do you think, Larry?
Totally agree with you. Sorry for that little hiccup there. Not sure what happened, but I am back. Thanks, folks, for continuing on. No, I totally agree. And people tend to look at my desire to have structure and procedure universally used as a desire to make everybody do the same thing. And that's couldn't be farther from the truth. But if we don't have some level of commonality, similarity, much like we've done law enforcement, and you were talking about people, and you're right. Cops are the same way. For the longest times, we wouldn't talk to each other, and that's changed. It took a cultural change in our business so that now we share things between jurisdictions. I think we can do it in this community. I really do. But it can't happen overnight. It takes
No.
folks with stature in the community, credibility with the evidence and what they've done, their body of work, coming together and say, "Hey, folks, we need to get together and do this in a way that we can all benefit from the information and we can find the answers. We can find what we're searching for." And I think that also goes back to what you said before, is what is our purpose? Is our purpose just to have a thrill? Well, lots of people jump out of a perfectly good airplane with a parachute. I wouldn't do it, but it's a thrill, and that's okay. But for those of us that are searching for the whys, why is this occurring? The researchers, the true investigators, we've got to have some level of structure in order for us to be able to share information and come up with we've got a thing called NCIC in our business where we share stuff across the country, crime-wise. We need to be able to do that in our business.
Oh, I
So,
agree. I mean, again, I've been yelling at the wind, blue in the face, saying this for years. Even when my personal beliefs differed, I always felt yes, there needed to be structure. Um,
mhm,
I've I was probably wearing it when I came down to see you guys last. For my team, we didn't wear black shirts. We wore black BDUs. We were like a paramilitary outfit because I felt that discipline was important, and the fact that all right, if we whatever we project on the outside is how we're going to behave and act, and there was a
mhm.
certain structure to that. Um, and while I look back at some of those pictures, I'm gonna be like, oh my god, what was I wearing? I felt that the impetus behind it was still important. Uh, like I said to you before we started this broadcast, I was like, "Hey, I'm wearing a jacket because people take information better from somebody who's dressed in a jacket rather than just a black t-shirt." But
Mhm.
as you see, I have both. A black
But
t-shirt and jacket.
isn't that all about evolving? I mean,
Yes.
I've been told by some folks in my business, I used to have a large stick, inserted into a part of my anatomy for a long time over stuff because everything had to be, boom, 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 very, very strict. Well, I've grown from that, and I understand that while structure is important, you gotta also have a more open mind, open way of doing things, and be willing to look at other people's way of doing things and find the best practices from all of it. And that's really where I'm coming from. And until I think we do that as a community, we're going to be stuck in the same spot.
Oh,
I mean,
I'm in
let's.
total agreement. We have been stuck.
Mhm,
That's being said, not everyone has been stuck. There's plenty of people doing good work, doing different things.
mhm,
You don't often hear about them because again, they've got their heads down and they're doing. But the people who you hear about the most, maybe they have the luxury of a larger platform, maybe a TV show, maybe something else that
mhm.
that causes them to be. Maybe they bought someone's collection that has a doll that everyone's gaga about. Again, I can't cast down on anyone who has more opportunity. But that being said, when you have it, how are you using it?
Hear it. Yeah. Yes. And I think that is another big important part of it. Where, I mean, I remember going to one conference where people sat up on a platform, had other people, invited other people in to bring in their evidence, and they stood upon high. And they said, well, this evidence is no good for this reason. This evidence is no good for that reason. It totally shot down these people, and you could just see the looks on their face. But the point is, they had their own opinion, and they thought they had all the answers, and they didn't think about sharing and maybe helping others along the way.
Hmm.
And I guess that's what I'm getting at, helping others learn, because we can all learn from each other.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
you mentioned it before, there are no experts in the field. I heard you mention that. There are no experts because we're all still trying to find out what the answers are.
Yeah, but that's often used as an equalizer to say we're all the same, and we're not.
Well, that's true too. I would agree with that. I mean,
To
I'd
say
love to
to say to scoff at someone who's been doing this for 40 years and say, "Ah, there are no experts. I've been doing this a month. We're all the same." No, that's just ignorance.
Mhm,
Are there experts? No, but look at the field of medicine, constantly changing. What drug does
Well,
what does this drug do? "Oh, I don't know, but, we saw the side effect happened to be something that is good. Yeah, let's do that." And as they learn what not to do and what is different, it changes, and so must we. A good scientist is a dreamer. They're going to look
mhm,
at something that doesn't exist yet and say, "How do I get to that?" And the common Edison, anecdote is, well, you failed 10,000 times, but you finally built the light bulb. Well, I just figured out 10,000 ways how not to make the light bulb, but all it takes is that
mhm.
one when it does work.
But when the experts won't are not flexible enough or open-minded enough to see other ways. That's the problem. That's where I'm coming from when I say there's no experts, because nobody knows 100% what the answers are yet. Can't take away from the folks that have been doing this for so many years. I totally agree with you. But we all have to understand there are different ways. And there's new learning going on every day. And we got to get out of the spot that we're in and start learning, start sharing, start realizing that not everybody has all the answers. That's just my 2 cents worth on that.
No, that's true, but that's also why we don't have a set of standards yet because of all those different ways. And
Mhm.
until something is established that helps people perhaps get those results. And again, maybe that's why, like the aforementioned Estes method is so popular because people believe they're getting good results with it. Yeah, you see a lot of people falling into line with that. Um, it just takes that good experience. And classic example, personal between you and I. All right, when I came down there and did my psychic projection experiment and got
Absolutely.
that word to come up, there's still people who come to me and said, "Oh my God, I was there that day. I remember that. I've tried
People
that
here still talk
since."
about that. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I totally agree. Moving on to another subject, because we could spend the next 5 hours going over this, but I am a little bit curious. Um, what is your personal philosophy, your theory as to what this whole paranormal, whether it be ghosts, are cryptids and UFOs connected? What is your theory as to what it is we're experiencing? What do you think
I
when we
believe
get
it's all
those emails?
connected. The
Mhm,
paranormal is an umbrella, and underneath it, you have your ghosts and spirits, you have your UFO experiences, you have your cryptozoology. And I don't think they're necessarily separate categories per se. You can have an experience. Someone will observe something. Maybe to one person, it's a demon. To someone else, it's a jinn. To someone in the UFO community, oh, that's a gray. We could all be describing aspects of the same thing now because of the disclosure movement that's happening with the government releasing files and practical talk about certain things on just common news shows. They're talking about extraterrestrials, they're talking about aliens, but not only just from other planets, but from other dimensions parallel to ours. People are
yeah,
talking about the CERN Large Hadron Collider opening up a portal. Something came through, they couldn't put it back. These are things that are being discussed now openly, and to us who've been doing this for all these years, we're like, "Mhm, welcome to the party." It's a weird, weird place that we
mhm,
live in, but our curiosity has had us looking in all these dark corners for millennia now, and I
mhm.
think that the nature of reality, our reality as we know it, very small, very local. I don't think we're hardwired to understand the enormity of it.
I would agree with you there. I would agree with you there. So your feeling is this dimensional theory that to put paint it with a very broad brush, but this dimensional theory really has credibility as connecting all the aspects of the paranormal.
Well,
That's
think
what I'm
about
hearing?
just like you get in your car and you listen to the radio. All right,
Mhm,
there are radio signals bombarding us at all times. Even now, as we're talking, it's passing through us. We
mhm,
need a device to tune into just one of those. But that's not the only one that exists. There's plenty next to it ad infinitum all around. We just have to tune into that frequency. So in that same thought, all right, I'm here in my office. You take that dial, you go half a step up on the dial. Maybe that dials into a different reality where there's someone living their life. Maybe sometimes those frequencies blend or meld together almost like when you're driving between cities and the radio stations are having a
Mhm,
hard time competing. Maybe those
mhm.
are the spirits we see. Maybe sometimes they're responsive because they are living beings very close to us. Are some of them maybe from the dead? Perhaps. Absolutely. Are aliens part of this conversation? Why not? Any who have transcended the physical and appear in spirit form, half the reports we get of alien visitation, they're communicating with us telepathically. Brings us back to psi. And any expression of typical hauntings is a spirit using their psi because it's either PK or ESP in the way that they
Right.
present to us. So it's
Mhm.
all part of the again, you can't get away from them because it keeps circling around to reference itself.
Fascinating stuff. Well, we need to take our last break. This hour is going quickly, and folks, we'll be right back because when I get back, I'm going to ask about some appearances that my friend Brian has been on, including uh, Curse of Oak Island. I'm dying to hear more about that. So stay with us, folks. We'll be back right after these messages. Yeah, there we go. And welcome back, everybody, for our last round tonight. Man, Brian, this whole hour has gone quickly, and I apologize for the technical issues there. But I do want to mention, folks, if you want to hear more great broadcasting, including my past shows, go visit us at xzbn.net. There you'll find all the shows that you find on the network, including mine. Bunch of wonderful shows, great hosts there. I really recommend you take a look at it. If you want to learn a little bit more about my group, you can get a hold of us at IndianRiverHauntings.com. That's our website. You can also check us out on our YouTube channel at Indian River Hauntings 2341. Um, Brian, how can folks get a hold of you and or even your book? How,
My website is neverstopsearching.com. Of all the socials, I'm pretty easy to find, but the one I'm most active on is X. And my book, Grains of Sand Tales of a Paranormal Life, is available wherever you get your fine books, probably Amazon.
that's where everybody goes. Yep, that's true. Um, One of the more fascinating things about what you've done, and you and I have worked together, done things together. You've just covered an entire plethora of circumstances. That's the best way for me to put it. But one of the most curious I saw was your appearance on a TV show called Curse of Oak Island, and it kind of, in my opinion, left a lot of things hanging. I don't really. I heard you say some things, but they never really followed through with any of it.
Well,
Is Oak
that's TV, isn't it, Larry?
Yes, it's TV. I understand that completely. Is
Now,
Oak Island haunted?
well, I did write about it in my book, uh,
Let's take a look.
Grains of Sand, Tales of Paranormal Life, available wherever you get your books. The chapter is called Hope on Oak Island because when I went, and now this was for the companion show, Curse of Oak Island Drilling Down,
Mhm.
hosted by Maddie Blake, and the brothers were there. I never got to meet them. I'm actually kind of glad
Interesting.
I didn't. I'm glad there was some distance because they're skeptics. Um, when I got to the islands, now this is TV. My call time was 10 a.m. I show up at 10 to 10 because if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. And I get there and nobody is there. I'm looking around. I said, did I get the right island? Am I on Maple Island or Pine Island? Like what's happening? Turns out they said, "Oh, the production's running late. New call time, um, 3 PM." So, oof, I'm a little early, but it gave me time to sit quietly on the island. I didn't explore, but I stayed right on the other side of the bridge on the island, and I just looked around. I just listened to the wind. I listened to the breeze and the trees and everything about it, and I was a little paranoid because on the plane ride over, I'm thinking, the paranormal doesn't respond on cue. God, I hope I get something. I hope they didn't fly me out here for nothing. I hope I'm able to deliver for them in a way that doesn't make me look ridiculous. And oh yeah, by the way, they won't find the treasure until 7 people have died. 6 have died. I hope I'm not the sacrificial 7th. Bastards. So here again, I'm for lack of a better term, communing with the island. Just saying,
Okay.
"Hey, I come here with respect. I'm this is me. This is who I am. If you deem me worthy, then reveal yourself to me." And when the production finally started, and Matty Blake's a great guy, earnest, kind. He was a good guy to show me
Nice to
around
know.
the island, and this was his first investigation. Now, for a place called a show called The Curse of Oak Island, this was the first time they were even going into said paranormal side of things in a really serious way. Um, I was stoked. He took me to all the hotspots of the island, and at every one, we did an EVP session. The swamp, 10X, the former digging site. We went down to uh, the old docks. We went everywhere, and everywhere we went, and everywhere that Mary went, an EVP was sure to follow. And I gotta say, just from a personal standpoint, because I'm a big geek, I'm not cool at all. But when we were at 10X and we're looking down the shaft, and either me or Maddie said, "Hey, if there's anyone here, give us a sign." And from the bottom of that shaft went boom. Maddie jumped back. I stayed stone faced, just staring down the chasm of the unknown. I'm like, okay, that was cool. I'm glad I didn't bug out in that moment. But I gotta say, we got an EVP at every single location. And in the end of the show, they played the worst one. And the brothers were like, oh, well, that doesn't mean anything. And I get it. It's TV. That's how the episode went. But in the book, I write about, yeah, here's the EVPs we did get. Here's what it said. Here's what I feel it meant. And Maddie, that was his first investigation. It was a good first one.
I guess it was. Now, since the brothers were skeptical, didn't really believe it, how did you even get connected to the show to do this investigation?
Because I feel, I guess, after so many years of not finding the treasure, they had to do something. So the episode was called "The Truth Behind the Curse," and I guess it was just about, hey, well, if there is a curse, is there a reason behind it? Is it supernatural in some way? And if it is it something that can be cleared and removed so we can finally get to what we're
Okay,
searching for?
okay.
And actually,
Um,
I was called for another show because of that appearance. I was on The Unexplained with William Shatner because Shatner went to the island and he talked to a bunch of people about their experiences on the island, and I got to talk about mine very briefly.
and I had heard that there were people that had experienced things out there, and that's kind of, I was really intrigued by the fact that you went out there because it just seemed like that was a piece that was missing, considering the curse and all the things that had happened out there over the years. I'm going to toss another show out to you that I know you haven't been on yet, but want to get your thoughts, and that's the Secret of Skinwalker Ranch. I don't know how. What are your thoughts about? Because
I
I
have
have
thoughts.
some real strong ones. I do too. I want to hear
I have
yours.
thoughts. Well, it's funny because 3 seasons of Haunted Collector, 10 plus seasons of Paranormal Caught on Camera. People only seem to remember me for that brief appearance on Oak Island, and I mean, I'm thankful for it. I would love to go back, but Skinwalker Ranch. Now, there were producers in common between Haunted Collector and Skinwalker Ranch. So when that show first started, there was when I was actually filming for The Unexplained, I met one of them and he goes, "Yeah, we're gonna be firing up again. We should get you there." I said, "Yes, yes, I want to go."
Mhm.
But in between then, I read a couple of books about it. They're on my shelf over there. One by George Knapp, and one from files from the Pentagon, the secret of Skinwalker Ranch, and it goes into the story, it goes into what's been reported there, and is very
Mhm.
much UFO, UAP connected. And the reports of people who've been there, researched there, and have left there with serious illnesses, problems. I don't have good enough insurance to to weather that kind of uh, disaster, so I kind of backed off. And the
Mm.
nature of TV, even though I've said, "Hey, I'm here," um, I haven't heard anything, but I would consider it.
And I'm glad because when you talk about dimensions, as we mentioned before, and the connection between maybe cryptids, because they've seen creatures out there, at least they've reported seeing creatures out there. I remember somebody seeing something up in the trees. Then you got the UFOs and that old the whole house, I guess, the original farmhouse that's out there. I mean, this thing is ripe for a paranormal direction to be taken during that investigation, at least somebody who can talk about that angle. Because if all of these things are connected, and that seems to be the prevailing thought in the community today, what a perfect place to conduct experiments.
Well, could it be? I mean, I feel like perhaps there needs to be a marriage of efforts because, all right, they're coming at it
Yes.
scientifically, they're trying to measure it, they're trying to come at it from a certain way, but, all right, if this area, the Ute Indians have stayed away from it because they said, "Yeah, it's bad over there." That's a spiritual warning. They say, "Yeah, we don't mess with that." And it
Mhm.
seems like there's a reason why. And yes, however you categorize it, be it these large animals that have been seen, these unidentified flying objects, or unidentified anomalous phenomenon that are there. Yes, there's
Mhm.
been plenty. It overlaps all the categories that we're looking for. And it does seem like a Disneyland of sorts. Like, yeah, we got to get in there. But to quote Jurassic Park, just because we can do something, should we? Maybe this is a locked off place for a reason. And again, I don't have a budget or insurance good enough to take care of me if something goes wrong, but damn, I'm
Agreed.
curious.
Well, and if what a great marriage between the scientific community and the paranormal community to maybe come up with the answers and not only use what we are used to using in our community, but also the scientific methods that they're using. What a terrific marriage to maybe find some important answers.
If they pulled
So
it
I
more to the spiritual side and said, "Yeah, hey, we're gonna use the devices to mitigate radiation. We're gonna measure what's going on when maybe they bring in a psychic medium to try to commune. What is happening? Let's get some data. Let's get some numbers. Let's get a
there
little
you go.
closer."
Well, they've already done that. They've had shamans from the Native American tribes out there conducting events, not a far stretch from our angle of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to vote for Brian Cano being the official
That's
paranormal
2.
investigator.
That's 2 votes. Me and you.
But I just, if we're going to, and the only way we're going to get to where we need to be in this community, I keep wanting to say field, and I know you prefer community, um, is to gain that marriage between the scientific side and the spiritual side and find the bridge. And I think that's where a lot of my evolving has happened. I've gone from that cop, got to have tangible evidence to take to court, to realizing that there is a bridge between the two, that we can have both, but we just
And
got to find it.
and yet, as a cop, I'm sure you had hunches. I'm sure
Oh, all
you
the
had,
time.
and
Gut
that's
feeling.
ESP. That's you using psi to say, "He's dirty." And your captain goes, "You Larry, you but Lawson, stay away from him. No, I gotta take him down." From every
I
cop
can
show
think
and movie in existence.
I actually can think of one instance where that kind of happened, but that's a story for a cop program, I guess. Um, but so that's why I wanted to bring that up. What a perfect marriage between the two sides to maybe finally come up with those answers. Now, we've got about a minute and a half left in our show, and I'd like to turn it over to you, and I'd like you to share with us where you think the community's going, and what do we need to do? I've put my 2 cents in worth, but I want to know what you think we need to do to raise that bar and yeah, get us all on the same page so that we can find the answers and work together.
I think that's the crux of it, working together. And wherever we're coming from, it's literally going to take all of us and all the methods and all. Again, you'll need some science, you'll need some spirituality. I made a card game about it, but the way I used to build my team was the three pillars: psychic, scientist, skeptic. You need all those viewpoints to a little tug of war to bring you to that center, because any extreme viewpoints brings you just that, just an extreme viewpoint. And the truth is always somewhere in the middle. So I think
Mhm.
if we earnestly try, we don't politicize or say, I'm right, you're wrong, but hey, how can we do this better? I see what you're doing. How can we improve that? How can we alter it, combine it? Maybe and again, it's a liquid thing. Some things will work in some places and some things will work better
Sometimes
in other
won't.
places. We have to be
Mhm.
open to that. And my motto has always been, and my website is never stop searching.
Never stop searching. On that note, my friend, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We could go on for hours on some of these philosophies and theories, and I've really enjoyed it. I hope you'll join us again sometime. And folks, thank
Absolutely.
you for joining us tonight. We appreciate you being here. Great show. We appreciate all of you listening to us. And until we meet again, take care, love your families, and we'll see you on the other side. Have a good night.